Well, it's obviously super important to understand what makes up a good product and how to develop really winning differentiation. It's equally important to understand the things that could take your legs out from under you. So, understanding those risks and red flags that you need to be aware of as you pursue product development and before you go into manufacturing products. So the purpose of this video is to develop an awareness of those red flags and risks to pay attention to before you pursue a product idea. So the first one to be aware of is patents. So there's really two kinds of patents. One is a design patent, which is literally just the look of a product and taking that look and design and patenting that. That usually takes about a year. The second is a utility patent, which usually takes about 3 years. And that's the actual functioning of a product. Those ones are a lot more expensive and difficult to get. But in terms of Amazon, what can really screw you over is if somebody's got a design patent. They basically submit a ticket against your listing. Somebody in seller support, usually overseas, will take a quick look at it, probably less than a minute or two. And if it looks anywhere similar, they'll basically kill your listing and they'll suppress it. Had this happen to a friend of mine that was making an apron. Somebody design patented the apron from the exact same factory that they actually got theirs manufactured from, and it shut them down all the way through Q4 and for most of Q1 the following year. So it can be really dangerous if one of your competitors on Amazon has a design patent in particular, because it can totally kill your listing and ruin your investment. So to check this, what you generally want to do, the easiest way to do this without bringing in attorneys, is literally just to take the actual brand name of some of those key competitors or those alpha ASINs in the space that could really get you, or even the entity, the underlying entity. If you just click on the actual seller name and who's selling the product, you can usually see who the legal entity is. Type that into Google and then go plus patents, and you can see what patents they've either filed for or may have. Most websites will also house any patents that they have in kind of the footer. Now, if you're doing a substantial investment where it's like a significant amount of your net worth and you're worried that it's a potentially unique product that might have somebody out there that has a patent on it, it may be worth spending $500 to $1,000 and actually hiring an attorney to conduct a formal search. There's less expensive ones that can do it on Fiverr if you want to save a little bit of money. But generally speaking, an IP attorney can conduct those searches with kind of a legal background and doing it the right way. But you definitely want to kind of validate, especially before any substantial investments made, if any competitors in the space have a patent. The next one is going to be a high demand, low review product. And this is really typically going to be restricted products that Amazon hasn't quite caught up to yet. So I noticed this when I actually first got into Amazon, things like pest control devices that plugged in, things like spy cameras. Those things that you look and they're doing like 50 grand a month and they have like 12 reviews, you're like, holy crap, this could be a winner here. Oftentimes that's a signal that Amazon just hasn't quite buried those listings yet, and they soon will be. So you go ahead and you think it's this awesome product, you go to a factory, you spend $15,000, you ship it over, it goes live and you sell really well for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden Amazon picks up a keyword in your listing and or you get reported, and then your listing gets killed, and then all that investment's done. So you definitely want to make sure that it's not a restricted product that you're actually selling, because Amazon does have those, and certain keywords especially will kill your listing if you're selling them on Amazon. The next one's going to be a high liability or high regulation product. There's actually some benefit to these, frankly, if you know what you're doing, because it is risky and few people want to kind of take on that risk, so it's less competition. But it can be super dangerous if you're not at least aware of what that will require. And if you're really not experienced in that area, it can be a dangerous category to get into. So some of these categories require specific testing that can be super expensive. Things like dangerous goods. In my Goal Zero days, we used to ship a large amount of lithium-ion batteries. We do like 300 shipments a year. It was a total pain in the ass to ship because of the UN regulations around dangerous goods and lithium batteries. So certain products have different shipping and storage restrictions. And in fact, if you have those products, Amazon may not even store them for you. So you might only be able to ship them via FBM as an example. So you need to be aware of that. And then there's just some categories that are gated and require Amazon's permission. So you need to be aware of that before you get into it, and make sure that you've got the capability and the budget to jump through all those hoops that are necessary for these higher liability, high regulation products. And then obviously realize that some of these things you might get sued from customers. So you need to be ready with insurance and or be mentally ready that you may have some situations arise with these higher risk products that you have to deal with the business risks as well. The next one to be aware of is just category creators. I think this is really a dangerous thing when you're selling on Amazon. Remember that Amazon is the largest product search engine, at least in the Western world in places like United States. Most customers are there using a particular keyword that they have in their head and they're trying to find products for that. If the keyword doesn't exist in their mind and the category doesn't even exist, they're not going to be searching for it on Amazon. And you do not want to be creating a category on Amazon. This is things like Kickstarter products that are new to the world, that are brand new innovations that no one even knows exists. Amazon's not the channel to sell those. Go to Kickstarter for those or use a different approach. The value in Amazon is that it's got active buyers with buying intent that are searching to buy particular products or product categories or product things that they want to seek out using keywords. You can have innovative category products where like a product category already exists and you're just completely destroying with this amazing innovation and differentiation because there's still keyword volume there. And if it's a great offer and a great differentiator, people are going to click on it and buy it. But what you don't want to have happen is that people can't even articulate what your product is because they don't know it exists. They're not typing it in Amazon. It's going to be very difficult to compete using that approach. So be very careful of those ideas that are new to the world ideas. The next one is competitor risk. I just like to say here, pick fights in your own weight class, right? So if you're new to Amazon and you're like, hey, I just kind of want to test this thing out. I've got a $10,000 budget. You do not want to be going into supplements and beauty because it's a total knife fight and you've got to be ready to kind of take those punches and understand the competitiveness that resides within those categories. Similarly, if there's like big brands dominating the space and you don't really have a lot of experience or comfort level taking on big brands or higher ticket items, just be aware of your blind spots, be aware of your capabilities. You need to assess where you're good and where your shortcomings are and make sure that you position yourself so that you're picking fights that you can actually win. The next one is budget, and it's kind of related to that last one in terms of picking fights you can win, which is really, can you afford to succeed? I've seen this a lot where people get into hyper competitive or very, very high volume categories that are, say, doing $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a month. And the vast majority of players in that category are doing that. And they're like, okay, well, I've got this like super niche or kind of differentiated idea. I'm targeting a subset of that. And I kind of think I can win based on like just kind of going niche and kind of tackling it that way. But what they don't realize is that the vast majority of the keywords that they need to succeed on in order to win and kind of get revenue from that category are going against those $500,000 a month ones. So if you have, say, $10,000 worth of inventory, that's roughly $30,000 worth of sales, you got enough for like 7 days or 5 days or whatever it is, right? And then you got to stock out and then you'll be out for 2 months. So like if you don't have enough budget and inventory to hit the revenue rates necessary to compete in those categories, and you don't have the budget for that, you frankly should not be selling that kind of a product. So be hyper aware of the budget required for that particular product that you're going after. And again, we've got a budget calculator that we're going to go over in the next section so you can have a really clean idea on how to assess this. Then the next one is a moat. So how hard is it for competitors or factories to replicate what you're doing? Again, you don't want to be in a situation where you come up with this product idea or you're the second one to come in for a particular product idea. And then by the time your product hits Amazon, there's another 20 or 30 competitors. You want to try to extend the difficulty of either a competitor and or a factory in China to replicate what it is that you're doing. That doesn't mean that competitors aren't going to come after you and do similar stuff to you. That's always going to happen in the Amazon space, but you want to make it as difficult and as drawn out as possible. So the more of a moat that you have, the longer you can kind of keep your differentiated offer only to you, the better off you're going to be with the long-term success and longevity of a particular product. And then the final one is just fads, right? So you want to avoid those short-term steep demand spikes that tend to happen with certain things, especially in pop culture. You want to find ideas that potentially are growing, even potentially growing exponentially in demand over time, but you don't want it to be a short-term up and down thing that is going to be more flash in the pan. One of the litmus tests that I like to think about to kind of check against fads is just to ask yourself this 5-year test, which is, will this product be around in 5 years? Will the demand for this product be around in 5 years? Will my customer archetype continue to seek this product and this particular offer for the next 5 years? The answer to that's no, or I'm not sure, or it's hard to say. You probably want to avoid it because it could be a flash in the pan thing that doesn't give you enough payback opportunity on your upfront and ongoing investment. So be aware of these risks and red flags before you pull the trigger on a manufacturing run.